As you can imagine, I get a lot of emails from brands who want to feature their watch on the channel. My usual decision process is if I enjoy the watch or I think that watch will bring value to you as a consumer and an audience member, then I'll take it in. And if I don't think it aligns with either of those, then I don't. It's really simple. The watch I'm featuring today almost fell instantly into that second category, and that's because they have been slated throughout the watch community, and for good reason.
Including a very early video from myself.
However, according to Filippo Loreti, they've changed, and I think that's a pretty interesting topic. Have they cleaned up their act? Are they creating affordable, decent watches? But most importantly, should you consider buying one of their watches in 2025? My name's Jason, I'm your watch guy today. Let's get into it. There's one very important thing that we need to address before we get into this watch and Filippo Loreti. I had one condition when taking on this review, and I made that very clear to the brand. And that's obviously that I'm going to be completely honest. And as you can see from the emails on screen now, that's exactly what they wanted, which you could argue is a step in the right direction. Now it's clear that later on in this video we are going to have to discuss the brand and how they conduct themselves in the modern day. But first off, let's have a look at what they've sent. When given the option of selecting from their range, I decided I wanted to see how good their affordable modern watches are. So I selected one of their latest dive pieces, the Neptune, and instantly the specifications were a step above what I expected from them. From the outset, this is an automatic dive watch with 300 meters of water resistance, and it's an absolute beast. Packed with the Seiko NH36 movement, a 120 click unidirectional bezel, and a ceramic insert. I didn't really expect the weight of this piece. It is a chunky boy and it feels like that on the wrist. Pretty much what you want in a dive piece. I am a big fan of the texture to the dial, and you know I love angles through a case. Speaking on the case, the finishing is much better than I expected, with aspects of brushing and high polish that leads into the bracelet, but it also accents the angles that I mentioned before. At £224, I've kind of got to say, this is a pretty decent deal. I half expected, due to this being such an affordable piece, that the bezel action would be quite poor, but it's absolutely solid. It's very legible with those white markings on the black background, and obviously has a lume pip up at the 12 o'clock. The crown is well sized, it has a good grip to it. There is some sort of signature to it, not quite sure what it is. And obviously we have a screw down case back with a depiction of Neptune in the center, and obviously the usual specifications. The dive style and aesthetic definitely plays out through that dial, especially with the large hour markers and the depth that that chaptering provides. The handset definitely fits those hour markers. It may not be what I'd pick in a diver, but I do appreciate the little splash of colour that the red second hand provides. I'm not sure everyone will appreciate the day-date complication at 3 o'clock, but they have gone to the efforts to partially match the colour with a black date wheel. It obviously adds more function to the piece overall, and it's not something that you always see in dive pieces anymore. The embossed pattern to that dial rarely works with the dive aesthetic. It almost gives a wave ripple type of effect, especially with that blue tone. It is available in a black variant, but for me, this blue was the one to go for. Even the bracelet holds up here. It has a H-link style. There's a nice accent with the brushing and polish, and it just generally feels like there's more force that's gone into it. I'm not going to say the same is to be said for the clasp. It is quite simple. There are only micro adjustments here, no dive extension, but we do have the same engraving as we do on the crown on that clasp foldover. Now, if you were interested in the Filippo Loreti brand, they do have a new interesting feature. Their weekly creations is basically what it says on the tin. You can sign up for notifications to get early access to their latest creations. If you're interested in something new and affordable every single week, then this could be something to look at. I believe this week is Superman, so you DC fans take a look. Now I'll go over my moans for this piece, and then we'll talk about Filippo Loreti, the brand, and more importantly, how I see those claims of being a changed entity. The loom here holds up, but it doesn't have that dive presence for me. I'd have liked to have seen the actual hour markers loomed instead of just the tips of them. It is one of those go-to specification markers in a dive watch for me. The crystal isn't sapphire, it's sapphire coated mineral. Now, I am glad that they've been transparent about that in their specifications. This is often what you'll see in AliExpress brand pieces. Obviously, the improvement would be a sapphire crystal.
Not a major thing, but something to consider.
Finally, I'd have appreciated a better clasp and more taper to the bracelet itself. I feel like that'd provide a better fit and better quality to the entire bracelet as a whole.
Now, let's talk about Filippo Loreti.
I do think this is a conscious effort on their part to move away from the past criticisms, which, as I said, were well deserved, and I had my own. This piece is a massive step up on anything that they offered in the past. As well as that, their current lineup has more like it. Watches with decent specifications at decent prices. One really important thing for me is that they've now moved away from claiming to be an Italian brand, and they now claim to be inspired by Italian design instead.
A little bit of honesty goes a long way.
Looking through their website though, there are a few things that I want to note, and one of them is a massive gripe for me. Their section about being mentioned in the press is, on the outset, pretty impressive. Forbes, Huffington Post, it all seems quite prestigious, but there's something that you really should know about those articles, and this isn't just Filippo Loreti, this is across the industry. They're on the most part paid for, and it's usually thousands of pounds to pay for those articles, so obviously there's a little bit of bias there. Now maybe that's a little bit of the pot calling the kettle black, because I have taken a piece in for review, but as mentioned at the very first point of this video, the only way that I was doing this review is if I could be honest. Also from Ask Men, the best watch under $300. How many times have you read an article with that type of insane claim in it? Now, one of my biggest issues with Filippo Loreti was their outlandish claims, and one of them still exists. They still claim that they make luxury watches affordable. I'm sorry, but this is a far sight from luxury. As I said, this is acceptable, even good for the affordable market. I've seen much worse at the same or higher prices, but come on, that's misleading at best. Finally, they have a customer rating on their website, but after taking a look at the system that they use, it is insanely complicated, and I literally can't find them on the actual website.
So God knows how that works.
If you look them up on Trustpilot, however, they have a 3.6 star rating. Now, what I will say is that is decent considering all of the issues that they had as a younger brand. But looking at the recent reviews, this still doesn't drive all the confidence that I'd like to have in a watch brand. So in conclusion, what I can say right now is they are offering some decent watches at affordable prices. At least that is what I've found in their Neptune line. Now, are they a completely reformed character and brand? The work that they have done is a step in the right direction, but there is still plenty of work to do if we are going to have full confidence in them as a watchmaker. And they really need to do that work if they ever want to be seen as anything other than a fashion brand. Thanks for watching today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think of it in the comments below. I've put a lot more content into the brand itself and a lot more research, so if that's something you like, let me know and I can do it for other brands. If you'd like to see more of this content, make sure you go down below and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.